Well, hello there. Once again, it is I, Vincent Verhey, better known as Big Vinny V from FWOnline.com, here with what has been a complete disaster of a Big Vinny V show. We are 90 minutes late, really 1 week plus 90 minutes late because I did not do a show last week and still having major connection issues. Even though I am logged into the official Figure 4 online channel on YouTube, I cannot get that link to show up on StreamYard. So I'm doing this show through my personal YouTube account, which I never actually use and have not in years and years and years. And I should be able to upload the recorded video later, but I'm going live. I am streaming. I don't know if anyone's listening. I don't know why they would be. But just in case you're listening, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this show. We have no time to waste. A very busy show to get into today. 2 weeks of TNA Impact because I could not review last week's show because of the what you call it, the YouTube hack. I'm doing reading notes off my phone here, which means I'll be looking straight down a lot. It's going to be a very exciting video. Thank you for tuning in and hope you enjoy it. I began by watching TNA Impact June 19th, 2025. I should mention today is Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. If you're listening to this at some point in the distant future. But yeah, it's hot. I'm behind. I'm cranky. I got a lot to do. I watched TNA Impact June 19th, 2025. A recap of what's now been going on long ago with the system challenging Matt Cardona to a tag match, Sami Callihan and Eric Young confronting each other and having a brawl, and First Class and the Hardys going to a DQ and Trick Williams interferes, leading to a giant schmoz, which I've since learned was a side effect of Casey Navarro injuring his knee. It was not the original finish, and they had ad-lib, and that's what we got. We open with Sami Callihan versus Eric Young. This show aired on what was officially the 23rd, specific to the date anniversary of Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. But man, they came out here and did an ECW tribute. This could have been Tommy Dreamer versus Just Incredible and his whole wacky crew. They did lots of crowd brawling or stuff on the floor, weapon shots before the match started, so it doesn't count. So it's not a DQ. And there were lots of interference and weapon shots during the match too. The Northern Armory, Eric Young and his crew of Sinner and Saint. I believe this is the worst entrance I've ever seen in a wrestling act. The song is a lullaby. It comes out, puts everyone to sleep. Everyone's just dead tired. Happened on both these shows. Sami Callihan is bald now. I went and checked. He was not bald last I checked. So I guess he lost a hair match somewhere, but he just came out with a shaved head or buzzed head pretty much to it. And they're just doing this match and they're talking about Eric Young snapping. He's threatening the ref. He's threatening the cameraman, threatening fans. But he gets back in the ring and right into a testicular claw, which is straight out of the Tommy Dreamer playbook. And then Eric hits a pile driver and wins. That's the whole match. This is every ECW hardcore TV match you ever saw with the different wrestlers, I guess. That's about that. A bigger ECW tribute than the original One Night Stand ever was. Tonight on Impact is Champions Challenge. They take all the men's champions, put them on one team. And 5, not quite random challengers, 5 top names. And all stars is what the term they use. They're on the other team. It's a 5-on-5 tag match. So she interviews Team Joe Hendry. And they all get in their catchphrases. Elijah is there. This obviously was recorded before his injury. Leon Noti has a win over Moose, and they hit all the champions except Steve Macklin. They say he's all right, but he is in the other team, and so they all agree tonight for one night only they will kick his ass. Order 4 has a summit. This is Mustafa Ali, the Great Hands, and Tasha Steelz, and there's a great tension in the group lately, and Ali is very upset with all of them. He insults them. He berates them. He accosts Tasha Steelz, or at least verbally accosts her for calling him. That's the only name he uses is him. Maybe it's Carmelo Hayes. I don't know. But he takes away her phone, orders her to apologize. She does, and he very quickly moves on. His whole mood changes. He moves on to the next dude. Next dude is Jason Hotch. Hotch is very upset. Ali put his hands on the woman. I'll be the first to get in your face when you do that. Ali says, I know you have a wife and daughter at home, and who's paying their mortgage? Who's paying for that baby food? It's me. And so Hotch also apologizes. John Skyler is left, but Skyler cuts him off. He's not going to let Ali get started. He chews Ali out for a while. Ali should be a leader. He's acting like a jackass. Ali says he will not tolerate weakness, and Skyler is the weakest link in order 4. Orders him to get down on his hands and knees and apologize. So Skyler refuses. Ali shoves him He shoves Ali back. Ali goes down. So Ali flees the ring and books himself versus John Skyler in a call to arms match for next week. No one knew what this was. And man, I was a happier person before I found out what that match was. We have a Killer Kelly hype video. She never identified herself. And there was no graphic naming her. They named her after the thing. It took me a while to remember who this was. While she was gone, she was not healing. She was hiding. She has a chain. The chain was her bond with Masha Slamovich. They were more than partners. You abandoned me. The crowd cheers for you. It's time for me to take what means most to you. And at not one point in this promo did she use the words killer or Kelly. And it was on Tom Hannafin, who it was his duty to identify her when the promo was all said and done. Ash and Heather by Elegance versus Lei Ying Li and Masha Slamovich. Holy shit. What a match this was. And I don't mean that in any kind of positive way. First, we have some bad comedy as Ash is mocking Lei Ying Li's martial arts gimmick, doing katas and whatnot. And we're all debating whether or not karate is allowed in wrestling. And they're all talking, and apparently Ash could not understand what Lei Ying Li was saying, so I had to get a phone to use Google Translate. That's when I decided this show sucks. And I was right about that pretty much till the very end. So there's a long heat segment on Lei Ying Li. They beat her, and they beat her, and they beat her. And apparently the personal concierge is Iceman. The crowd's saying Iceman sucks. He's never used that name. No one's ever called him that name before, but this crowd dubbed him Iceman, and thus Iceman he be. So they're beating her, and they're beating her, and they're beating her, and then she just makes her own comeback. May I remind you, it's a tag team match. You have a partner. You can tag out. But no! She makes her own comeback. She's running wild. She's making cover. She's firing at the crowd. She's totally fine. You have a partner. Tag out! But no. They just cut her off, and we just started on over with the heat. And they beat her, and they beat her, and they beat her. And the crowd shouting, Iceman sucks. And Lee makes another comeback. And she's getting more near falls. And like 15 minutes in the match, suddenly remembers she has a partner. Out of nowhere, just collapses and starts selling and dramatically fighting for the corner. So Masha gets this hot tag, which by this point is totally unnecessary because Lei Ying Li already beaten both women by herself. It goes for 20 seconds. They cut her off. And Ash is being a complete dork with a fake kata again, but she still dumps Lei Ying Li. There's a glitter in her eyes to take her out of the match. And Masha's trying something or other when Killer Kelly comes out and there's disco music playing. Her name's not on the screen. No one in the crowd knows who she is. And Masha's distracted and Ash sits rarefied air and wins. I can only assume Masha Slamovich was hurt in the show and they had like 1 minute of stuff she could do in the ring. And they booked her in a tag match anyway. And that was that. So Ash has pinned the Knockouts champion. And granted, Killer Kelly is already next in line for a title shot. But you would think pinning the Knockouts champion, even in a tag match, will be grounds to set up a title shot down the road at a later date. But as we will learn on the next episode of Impact, that's not always the case. The Inspiration are watching this match backstage. They claim they made the Knockouts tag titles iconic. Encourage the champions to take your selfies and paint your nails now. We are about to inspire you. The Inspiration, I should say. They refer to themselves in the third person. The Inspiration is about to inspire you. The BioFlex injury report. Casey Navarro hurt his knee in that Hardy's match, which explains why the ending was such garbage. Santana has been medically cleared after a bottle attack, and Tasha Steelz is cleared after an upper body injury. That's good to know. Santino comes out for a promo. Announces Mike Santana is cleared. He's off suspension. He's medically cleared. He will face AJ Francis in a street fight next week. He calls out Tommy Dreamer. And talking about Tommy's brawl with Mance Warner last week. First thing Santino does is call Tommy fat. It's not his exact words, but what's the point he made? And he can have a match with Mance Warner whenever he wants. Mance and Stephanie interrupt. Steph points out that the innovator of violence is older than she is. Not the wrestler Tommy Dreamer, the innovator of violence. The actual nickname is older than she is. So Tommy, to his credit, concedes his time is up. But there's always a big picture. It's always about something else. And Jake something returns. He makes his big return, although he's not nearly as big as he used to be. And he sends Mance packing. That's the end of that. We have a clip of some conflict between Tessa Blanchard and Indy Hartwell after the 8-4-1 match last week. The conflict, if you recall, was that they were on opposite teams and they fought a little bit. And this pissed Tessa off. So Tessa comes in and says, quote, "Oi, what was that last week?" And Indy Hartwell, and I've never identified with her more, simply says, "What?" And Tessa's still hot. "You want to start something?" And he says, "I don't want to start anything with you." They're discussing history and how Indy used to stay on Tessa's couch and Tessa would wrestle for free so Indy could get booked. So it's Tessa's fault. Anyway, Tessa just leaves. They've established these two are frenemies, I suppose is the term you could use. Highlights from Triple Mania, where the Nemeths are in a four-way tag, and Joe Hendry has a special Spanish language version of his entrance song, and he's in a four-way with Moose and El Macias and Hijo to Dr. Wagner Jr., and Moose pins Wagner to win that match. The System versus Matt Cardona and a mystery partner. Thought maybe the mystery partner would be John Cena. That'd be exciting. But no. Cardona says his partner's from right here in Tempe, Arizona. It is the hometown man. Yes, more masked Cody Deaner, who does get one of the best reactions all night, to be fair. So I need to remind you all, the story of this hometown man is that Cody Deaner totally sucks, but he puts on a mask and he's a good wrestler, and it's very, very shocking to see him win matches. This is not like Dusty Rhodes to the Junkyard Dog, where they would lose a loser leaves town match or they would get suspended, and suddenly the Midnight Rider or Stagger Lee would come back to right the wrongs. No. Cody Deaner lost every match for years, sucked for years, was fired for being a bad wrestler, but came back under a mask, and apparently is a good wrestler now. So, he gets the hot tag. He's running wild. And Eddie cuts him off, goes to the mask, but hometown man reverses Eddie Edwards, reverses into a cradle, and pins him. They attack hometown man after the match. And Myers and Cardona have a stare down. That would be Brian Myers and Matt Cardona, the former Edgeheads, so they have a long history together. And Myers never lays a finger on Cardona, but his buddies attack Cardona from behind, and Myers just walks the other way. And then when the System are all posing together, Myers is looking back over his shoulder to make sure Cardona is still alive. That's the most intriguing thing on this show so far. A recap of 2 weeks ago on NXT when Inamura pinned Trick Williams and set up Josh Briggs getting a TNA title shot. Yes. Then run down next week's show, and I was about to review it, so who cares? Champions Challenge. It's the Rascals and Joe Hendry and Elijah and Leon Slater versus Trick Williams and Steve Macklin and Moose and the Nemeths. They should do this match in AEW, but I don't know if they have a ring big enough to accommodate 56 champions and all their challengers. So, babyfaces run wild, do a 5-man Joe Hendry turnaround. That was fun. Kaz is on commentary. So I'll just cut to the chase here. This turned into a very, very fun match. The highlight was Trick Williams, who is better and better every time I see him. And he's one of those dudes where you can't take your eyes off him, whatever he's doing. Even if he's got like a cravat. He's got a cravat, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to rest. He's just doing this for a while. I'll come back when the comeback starts. But no, you can't take your eyes off Trick Williams no matter what he's doing. He's got incredible presence and star power. And he looks great and carries himself great, and he's learning what to do and what to do at the right times, improving rapidly. And I thought he improved rapidly last year. He's just getting better and better and better. And I'll have more to say about that in the next show. They're ranting about how stupid Santino is for letting Trick defend the TNA title against another NXT wrestler. This will not solve any of TNA's problems. That was, of course, referring to the Josh Briggs match, which is irrelevant now. So Macklin, who is the only babyface champion right now, is not getting along with his team. And he is refusing to cheat. They're mad at him, and he's reluctantly tagging them in, and they're not tagging him in. They're talking about the fans, and Kazarian on commentary questions why grown men wear replica belts. Matthew Raybould very calmly and matter-of-factly explains it's a desperate attempt to feel something in their empty lives. Kaz concedes it's a good point. He has learned something today. They move on for a while. So Leon Slater finally gets a hot tag, and there's a bunch of falls heat on him for a bit, and there's some cradles and near falls. He almost pins Moose again. And the gist of it is, Macklin eventually, the heels try to cheat. Macklin won't let them. And so he walks out on his team. They're sick of them. So now it's all 9 dudes doing a parade of big moves. And Ryan Nemeth is left alone in the ring. Macklin has clonked Nick with a title belt. Ryan's alone. Joe Hendry, who, spoiler, will be challenging for the world title at the next pay-per-view, hits Ryan Nemeth with a standing ovation. And then he lets Elijah get the pin for some reason. So let's review Joe Hendry. He shows up at WrestleMania, gets his ass kicked. He defends his title against Trick Williams, loses. He wrestles Frankie Kazarian, loses again. And obviously by now they had decided that he's due a mandatory contractually obligated championship rematch. They're going to do it at Slammiversary. He's getting it either way. So he didn't, like, by rule, he did not need to win this match, but sure would have made me more excited for that main event if he'd won a match before getting his title shot back. But no, he lets Elijah get the win. Elijah pins Ryan Nemeth with the tombstone. And this obviously was recorded before Elijah tore his triceps. I guess it's possible they were planning to do a three-way with Hendry versus Elijah versus Trick at Slammiversary, but because they are still doing a three-way, it appears, and this Elijah's been replaced. But man, I think it would have been. This is all conjecture and pointless anyway. Now, it would have been a much better match. Joe Hendry versus Trick Williams 1-on-1, and Joe needed the win more than Elijah does. I don't know. It didn't make any sense at the time. It's all irrelevant at this point. I thought the main event was very fun. It saved the show, and that was a show that badly needed some saving. I covered that whole thing in 16 minutes, so it's a good thing I got another show to recap. I am also, blowing through this because reasons. So I also watched TNA Impact June 26th, 2025. A recap of the show we just watched, essentially. And they did show Elijah pinning Ryan Nemeth to win the Champions Challenge after Steve Macklin walked out on the Champions team. So they were in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A big crowd, like 1,500 people. Not especially hot. They were not into everything. But when they were into stuff, boy, were they into stuff. So Joe Hendry appears. He's in street clothes. Hannafin casually lets us know that Joe will be getting his rematch at Slammiversary. Joe hasn't won a match. Joe hasn't pinned anybody. Joe has done nothing to earn this except they have to give him a match. May as well do it at a big pay-per-view show. It's kind of silly. And it was pointed out to me that, they're working with TNA, NXT, I should say, working with NXT. NXT is live, TNA is taped. And sometimes you have to be, it gets a little complicated about what you can and can't say without spoiling a show that hasn't happened yet. But man, how hard would it have been to just have Joe pin Frankie next week and then just have Joe say, I am cashing in my contractually obligated rematch at Slammiversary, whoever the champion may be. But no, he comes out and Hannafin just spoils the promo, says he's going to be challenging at Slammiversary. Joe did cut a very, very fun promo. He thanks the fans for having his back. It's very painful to lose the title to somebody who doesn't even work in TNA, but the fans keep him coming back. Everything he's accomplished is because of them. He vows to bring the World Championship back to TNA. It was a good promo. Killer Kelly then does another promo. Again, never identifies herself. Again, there's no graphic on screen. Poor Hannafin has to carry the load for these promos. He names her when all is said and done. She did call out Masha. Never said Masha Slamovich, but called out Masha and referenced MK Ultra. I don't think she explained it. I used to team with Masha Slamovich in a tag team known as MK Ultra, and sometimes you do it to dumb it down to that degree. She did not do that. But she knows Masha's a monster. Going to show her who the real monster is. Tonight, there is a Knockouts Battle Royal, she says, and a chill ran down my spine. I was dreading that. I think I was right to dread it in hindsight. The winner of that will get the next title shot, and Masha vows that Kelly vows she will beat Masha at Slammiversary, and then she will beat whoever wins this Battle Royal. It was also a good promo if you know the part where she never identifies who she is, which is a pet peeve of mine. Zachary Wentz versus Ryan Nemeth. This is happening because the Nemeths are defending the tag titles in a 4-way ladder match at Slammiversary. It is announced here via on-screen graphic. It's the Nemeths versus the Hardys versus the Rascals versus First Class. 4-way ladder match for the tag titles. I assume Casey Navarro's knee will be good to go by then. It's kind of random, but it gets the Hardys in the bill. It gets the Hardys prominently in a tag team title match. It gets them in a ladder match. And they have not only the Nemeths, but 4 extra dudes to carry the load and take some of the damage. So you can sell it as Hardys in a ladder match, but it's really the Hardys doing a cameo in a ladder match that a bunch of other guys are actually doing. So this is a good way to keep the Hardys healthy at their advanced stage. This match here, Zach Wentz versus Ryan Nemeth, your basic short TV match. Nick Nemeth interferes with the heat. Ryan goes to a chin lock. Zach makes his comeback, flies all over. Ryan gets his jumping DDT for a near fall and does his goofy bug-eyed sell looking directly into the camera, blatantly breaking the fourth wall, taking me out of the match. But Nick, the Nemeths try to cheat. Nick passes the belt to Ryan. Ryan is a bad cheater. He's caught in the act. The ref takes the belt away. And you see this all the time where, like, the ref, they'll blatantly cheat and get caught, but it's a setup, and they'll use that to distract the ref as they hit a low blow or whatever. This is the John Cena thing. He's done this, I think, every match this year. But here, it's just Ryan Nemeth sucks. That is the gimmick. He sucks at cheating even. His belt is taken away. He turns around. He is kneed in the face, and Zach hits a spiral tap and wins. It's a fine little 4-minute TV match. And then Nemeth tease a brawl with the Rascals afterwards, but then just walk away. A recap from NXT with Trick Williams beating Josh Briggs to retain the TNA title. And then the promo afterwards where Trick declares himself the greatest TNA champion of all time, but Joe Hendry appearing and laying him out. And they use this to plug Joe Hendry versus Wesley on NXT tonight, actually. Gia interviews Trick Williams. Have I mentioned this guy gets better every time I see him? Like every week, he's better than he was the week before. This promo ruled. So Slammiversary is Trick and A's biggest show of the summer. It's live in the UBS Arena in Long Island, New York. She asks him if he's ready. He replies, "Don't I look ready?" And she starts to reply. He cuts her off and says, "That's a trick question." I laughed. He runs down Joe Hendry. Just because you believe doesn't mean you can achieve. That's the main event at Slammiversary. Tonight, the main event is AJ Francis kicking Mike Santana back to the block. I'll be sure to watch that one. And dude, he's not ripping off The Rock, but you can tell he's been watching a lot of Rock material. He's got a similar cadence, a similar rhythm, a similar delivery. And the key is he's figured out that what made The Rock great, beyond just being The Rock, but what made him especially great was he had new material each and every time he was out there. He did not rely on his catchphrases. People remember the smell what The Rock is cooking. They remember it doesn't matter what your name is and all this. But the fact is, the catchphrases was like the icing on top of the cake. And the cake was new material, new content, something new and exciting and fun every single week. And Trick has figured that out. Every Trick Williams promo is worth watching because no two of them are the same. So he's doing a fantastic job. I'm very, very impressed with Trick Williams lately. Gia's interviewing Masha about the pressure of facing Killer Kelly and then the winner of this battle royal. Masha thrives under pressure, whether it's old tag team partners, new challengers. They keep lining him up. I keep knocking him down. As for Killer Kelly, she wants to bring up this chain we used to use. Let's have a chain match. Gia Miller does the funniest shocked expression. It's not quite the shocked 2-count face everyone does, but her eyes are breaking out. Her jaw is wide open, but her lips are closed. It's one of these. And I laughed my ass off. She's probably even funnier looking than I am. It's not true, actually, not at all. But I laughed. And then some woman comes in and says she has something special planned. And Masha accepts this something special. And this woman is very excited, and she leaves. The announcers then tell me it's Ariana Grace, who I've been watching on this show and NXT for years. She was not wearing her evening gown. She had no sash. She had no crown. There was nothing to indicate this is Ariana Grace. Like any other woman with long black hair, which is a lot of those in pro wrestling these days. That was weird, but Hannafin clued me in. He's very good at his job. And when people in promos fail to identify themselves, as they so often do, Hannafin fills in the blanks. It is time for this dreaded Knockouts Battle Royal. What a way to build a challenger this was. So the first thing they do, Lei Ying Lee, by the way, is the only one who gets an entrance. So the Elegance brand and the Inspiration are doing a pose off. The Elegance brand are supposed to be heels, and they are. The Inspiration are supposed to be baby faces. I'm very unsure about this. They're all acting very, very annoying, but they're doing this pose off. Everyone else is annoyed, and Gang is up to throw all 5 of them out of the ring. And they have this brawl in the back 3-on-2, and that's that. So among the names they had to bring in to fill out this battle royal, because it's not as if TNA's Knockouts division is 20 people deep. Katie Arquette, who we were told is related to former world champion David Arquette. The Spark Jada Stone, who's never on TV, but apparently has a nickname, and she's in there. Mila Moore actually took a fantastic bump in the corner to get eliminated. So, Mila, you made the most of your TV time. Congratulations to you. There's Danny Luna, Jody Threat, the former Spitfire. We get down to like 8 or 9 women. We go to a commercial break and down to 8 or 9 women, and most of them are either lying on the mat doing nothing or just going for a stroll around the ring, not terribly invested. They're bored with their own match. Myla Grace and Harley Hudson, they dump Rosemary. Everyone boos. That stunned me. Then they get dumped. People boo that too. Alicia Edwards is running her mouth, and so everyone gets very annoyed and dumps her, including Tasha, her on-again, off-again tag partner. So Xia Brookside picks up Victoria Crawford and drops her on the apron. And the idea is she'll drop her there, and then Lei Ying Li will kick her off. So she picks up Victoria. Xia Brookside picks up Victoria Crawford, puts her down, feet first on the apron, and she looks to her left, where Lei Ying Li is being stomped by, I believe, Tessa Blanchard. It was Tasha. Excuse me, Tasha. It doesn't matter. She's being stomped by Tessa. The point is Lei Ying Li being stomped. So Xia looks at her and just shouts, "Lei Ying!" And Lei Ying completely no-sells the stomping, springs up to her feet, and kicks Victoria in the head and knocks her off the apron. Was it that necessary that Lei Ying Li be the one to eliminate her, that she had to stop being stomped and jump to her feet to kick somebody else? Just silly, and I buried my face in my hands. So there's a big flurry of quick eliminations. Usually in Battle Royals, I always make note of what the final 4 are, but it happens so quickly it doesn't matter. With a final 2 of Tessa Blanchard and Indy Hartwell. My God, what a talent gulf. Crowd is suddenly hot for this. I don't know why. But Indy does a running kick. She misses, and like the kick takes her over the top rope. She gets in the apron. And Tessa, for the next 40 seconds or so, puts on an amazing display of wrestling herself. And she's teasing knocking Indy off the apron. She's teasing knocking herself off the apron. It's actually quite marvelous what she pulled off here. But then Ash by Elegance resurfaces, literally rising from behind the ring like Vince McMahon at WrestleMania, only without the blood and the smile. And she runs over and dumps them both out. And they show the replay. When all 5 women went out earlier to start the match, Ash did in fact go under the bottom rope. So she was never technically eliminated. And she comes back and wins. She's your next challenger. Granted, she did pin the champion last week, but at this Battle Royal, where she officially earns the title shot, did nothing to make me excited to see her wrestle again. Just silly and childish and goofy. And it would be fine if that was just like a TV match or just later in the show, but I'm pretty sure that's at Slammiversary. And we go from a great build, she pins the champion in a tag match, albeit after distraction, to an absolutely goofy build where she just finds a loophole in the rules and gets very lucky and wins. She did not come off like a credible challenger for the most prestigious women's title in the company. So Masha comes out to confront Ash, but before she can get to the ring, JC Jane, NXT Women's Champion JC Jane, appears. This apparently is the surprise Ariana Grace had arranged earlier. The 3 women all stare at each other, and that's just that. A recap of Tommy Dreamer bringing back Jake Something to brawl with Mance Warner last week, and Something then does a promo backstage. He was sidelined, he was hurt, he was forgotten, but Tommy Dreamer kept checking on him to see how he was doing physically and mentally. He was not going to let Mance get away with sucker punching Tommy Dreamer. Last week, he says, I sent Mance a message. Next week, I sent him to the hospital. Since I've been gone, he observes, there's a new championship here, the international title. I feel like that title was made for Jake Something. And conveniently, Steve Macklin is 2 feet away. He steps in on screen. Doesn't threaten Jake. They're both baby faces, but he vows to see Jake soon. And that's that. The Bioflex injury report. Santana again cleared from his head injury after AJ Francis broke up champagne bottle over his head. Casey Navarro was out with a dislocated knee, which sounds absolutely no fun. And speaking of absolutely no fun, Elijah, of course, tore his triceps, had surgery, is going to be out for a long time. And just to make things, not that there's ever a good time to tear your triceps, I try to avoid it whenever I can. But this show here in Pittsburgh was supposed to be Elijah's happy birthday appearance in front of his hometown crowd. And instead, he's home recuperating from tricep surgery. That sucks. That's just terrible news all around. The call to arms match. Goddamn. The rules here are each guy starts with his hand tied to the ropes in opposite corners of the ring. They must frantically try to untie themselves, and then whoever unties themselves first can attack the other guy and have the advantage. But you still have to win by pin or submission. And I'm thinking about this now. You couldn't pin or submit a guy who's tied to the ropes. Wouldn't that just count as being in the ropes, or at least close enough that he grabbed them with these? So fucking dumb. What a dumb stipulation this is. So the very first thing that happens is Mustafa Ali takes out scissors and cuts his goddamn rope. I don't know if this should have made me happier or angrier, because I was not looking forward to these two guys playing solitaire tug of war to see who could get free first. But if the steps are loosely enforced where you could just cut your way free, and the heel was smart enough to think of it, and the babyface was too dumb. So Ali's free, and oh, by the way, has scissors, but he doesn't use them. You can stab this dude to death and win. That would have made sense. He's a heel. You could do that. So he's doing some stuff while Skylar is tied to the ropes. But he charges, and Skylar backdrops him out of the ring. Hotch then passes the scissors to Skylar. He cuts himself free. Skylar passes the scissors back to Tasha. So the gimmick is all three of them have now effectively turned on Ali. They're all conspiring against him. But it doesn't matter, because they only go like 2 or 3 minutes, and Ali wins the 450 splash. What a colossal waste of time this entire miserable endeavor was. So Ali grabs a chair. Hotch tries to stop him, but Ali just immediately posts him and throws him into the ring. So he has single-handedly destroyed both members of the Great Hands. He's going to smash them both with the chair. Tasha throws herself on her own body on top of the pile to take the bullet and block this. This does not stop Ali. He raises his chair over his head again. But Cedric Alexander that makes his debut to make the save. They say he has a history with Ali. I suppose this is probably on Raw when I was not watching. But they suggest he was the one Tasha Steelz was calling on the phone, has been calling lately. It's been upsetting Ali so much. So they're having a stare down. Ali grabs Tasha by the wrist, goes to pull her away, but Cedric grabs her other wrist and pulls her back. So everyone's in Ali's face, and finally he leaves on his own. So I guess Cedric and the Great Hands and Tasha Steelz are a faction now. I don't quite know, but at least I had a point of something changed. There's an angle at the end, but the match itself was a waste of time between two guys who could have had an awesome match. That's really what frustrates me about it. If you just say, Ali, Skylar, go wrestle and tear the house down, your house would be torn down, and you'd be quite happy about this. But no, they did some wacky, goofy gimmick. They had some wacky, goofy match. Sucked. A recap of Hometown Man pinning Eddie Edwards in a tag match last week, and the brawl with Matt Cardona where Brian Myers refused to attack him. So the system started to do a promo. It's really just Moose talking. He says, Slammiversary is the biggest match of Leon Slater's career. For me, it's just another Sunday. Cardona tries to interrupt. Eddie Edwards cuts him off, vows to get a match booked and beat a spray-tanned ass next week. As soon as he said this, Myers rolls his eyes. He does not want his new friends fighting with his old friend. The system leaves. Myers and Cardona have a very brief stare down, but Myers leaves with his group. The Northern Apathy versus the Hardys. Sinner and Saint are a very, very fun team based out of the Northwest, Vancouver, BC. I'm a huge fan of theirs, but this Northern Armory gimmick, especially with a new entrance, it just sucks. It's just sleep-inducing. It puts the crowd out every single time. It kills the show. Thank God they were followed by the Hardys, the biggest stars in the roster, who came out for their entrance. So if I didn't mention this, yes, Hardys versus Sinner and Saint here. So Sinner and Saint have been a regular part of the TNA roster for like 6 months or more. And I think this match is the first time the announcers have done anything to actually talk about them and get them over as anything other than the guys who used to work for Josh Alexander and now work for Eric Young. But they're talking about their history, and they're talking about how they don't use the term Sinner and Saint. They call them Northern Armory. I use it because it separates them from Eric Young, and I also think it's an awesome name for a tag team. And the Sinner was always Judas Icarus. The Saint was Travis Williams. But really, they're both sinners. They're talking about this. And Eric Young's interfering in the match constantly. He gets ejected to a giant ovation. Tom Hannafin suggests that if Sinner and Saint, the team that is on this match show and never, ever, ever wins, if they beat the hottest act in the company, it would be, some would call it an upset, he says. I suppose technically he is not wrong. Well, it didn't happen. It doesn't matter. Jeff pins Judas with a senton. A short, inoffensive tag match that gave the Hardys a win going to Slammiversary, and there is more. They use this, really this is just a transition. The Hardys call out Leon Slater. They put over how hard he is working, how he can become the youngest X Division champion ever at Slammiversary, and they believe will get the job done. And then Leon cut a great promo. My God, what an awesome promo this was. He's not just doing it for himself, he's doing it for his mom, his little sister watching at home, everyone in the stands, and especially to make Matt and Jeff proud. He mocks Moose's boring promo delivery, and I laughed because Moose's promo delivery is quite boring. He warns Moose is in for the fight of his life. Notes Moose has a match next. He is going to watch from the announce desk. Leon was great here. Tremendous promo. That was awesome. So this next match, bear with me. It does make sense in the end. It is Moose versus Shane Saber versus Jake Painter. And I thought, why in the hell are you doing a squash match? Not even a handicap squash match, but a three-way squash match. How does this work exactly? Well, Moose explains he wants a warm-up before Slammiversary. He is the X Division champion. The X Division has a long history of three-way matches. In the spirit of the X Division, he has requested a triple threat match to show Leon what will happen to him in the biggest match of his career. That all makes total sense. Great. And then there's a period, there's two of them and one of him, and very briefly, he's selling for them, but very, very briefly. And once the selling is done, it's done. Capital D-U-N, done. And he's powerbombing these dudes left and right and powerbombing them onto each other and pitching one out of the ring, and he pins Painter with a spear. That legitimately may have been my favorite thing on the show up to this point. That was an awesome squash. And then Moose continues the attack until Leon gets in his face, and Moose backs down and retreats to the back. AJ Francis and Mike Santana have a hype video for the main event match. This was awesome because there was absolutely zero comedy. No silly haha. These two dudes hate each other. They've been interfering in matches. They've been costing each other championships. They've been pissing each other off. Tonight, they're going to beat the shit out of each other. And they can't wait. And no one's joking. AJ says, this all started. You couldn't mind your own business. I was trying to talk to Sami Callihan when you interrupted. So I went to NXT to interrupt your match and get in your business. And Mike says, because AJ Francis, of course, interfered when it appeared Santana had Trick Williams beat for bringing the TNA title back home. AJ Francis, you're the reason I got to go home to my daughter empty-handed. She's brokenhearted every time she sees me. Great stuff. To hype up what turned into a great match. AJ Francis versus Mike Santana in a street fight. AJ Francis played for many NFL teams, one of them the Seattle Seahawks. He's out here in the action green Seahawks tribute gear with a feather pattern down the legs. This is another actually ECW callback match. It was a street fight, so no countouts. So they're brawling the aisle forever. And there's fan interaction. AJ holds up a fan sign. They go to break. As soon as they come back from break, AJ drops the sign, hands it back to the fans. So we actually missed nothing. It was like an old like a Dukes of Hazzard commercial break where they freeze with the car jumping in midair. I come back from commercial, the car's still in midair and then lands. Kind of like that. I know there's tons of Dukes of Hazzard watchers here in 2025 know exactly what I'm talking about. So they're brawling on the floor. They're brawling in the ring. There's lots of weapon spots. AJ Francis, of course, is a monster heel. He knows how to be a monster heel. His heat is very methodical. He does one big giant powerhouse move. He taunts Santana. He has a big powerhouse move. He taunts the fans. He attacks with a weapon or two and takes a seat in a chair and poses. He's taking his sweet time. Santana makes his he gets slammed across the chair, Santana does, which looks absolutely no fun. But he makes his big fiery comeback. The pace picks up. The place is going crazy. Does a running flip dive over the floor. Does an Asai moonsault on the floor. Sets up some tables. Promptly ignores them. They get back in the ring. Picks up the giant defensive lineman. I think I called him an offensive lineman before, but AJ Francis was a defensive lineman in the NFL. Regardless, Santana picks this giant human being up on his shoulders, DVDs him through a pair of chairs for two. The fans are chanting, "This is awesome. This is awesome." They brawl out on the apron where Santana gets AJ up on his shoulders again. And what happened, long story short, is he DVDs into the tables. But there is a big difference between doing a DVD in the ring, which we had just seen, and a DVD off the apron through two tables. You get a guy in the ring for a DVD, even with chairs to land on, you get him up and you can fall down with him. As long as you explode up, everything's going to be okay after that. Through the apron, you got to maintain your balance. You got to have control. You got to throw him high enough, over enough so he takes a safe bump through the floor. There's a lot going on here. And this Santana, the same dude who was just doing flip dives and moonsaults a minute ago, is now just pitching this NFL lineman around. He's quite a beast, this Mike Santana. Very, very impressive. So AJ goes through 2 tables. Place is going absolutely nuts. Trick Williams runs out to check on AJ, but before he can get involved in the match, Joe Hendry runs out to brawl with him. They brawl to the back. Santana pitches AJ in and pins him with a frog splash. No! He does not pin him with a frog splash. I wrote he pinned him with a frog splash, but AJ did the big kick out. One last big kick out by this monster challenger. And they go back and forth a little bit more, and Mike tries to spin the block, but gets speared in mid-move. And AJ Francis hits the AJ Styles clash for a 2 count. Announcers are losing their minds. It's blasphemy. And AJ gets a hold of the champagne bottle. Not the same champagne bottle, obviously, but a champagne bottle similar to the one he once broke over Santana's head. But Santana avoids it. He gets a champagne bottle. He blasts it over AJ's head. Poetic justice, gets a sweet revenge. Finishes a spin the block. The discus lariat gets the win. This was already a fun TV main event. Those last 2 minutes made it fantastic, phenomenal, awesome. Like, if you had this as a 3-star match near the end, those last 2 minutes made it like a 4.5. If you had it at 4, it's a 5.5. Just great stuff at the finish. And the matches are supposed to peak at the finish. I know that's a deep thought, but that's how it's supposed to go. Mike Santana looked like the absolute man here. Just the man to beat all men. And which was the goal, and they succeeded. So congratulations to everyone involved. There is more. Santana cuts his promo, demanding to be added to the Joe Hendry Trick Williams main event at Slammiversary, which will be in New York. He will be the hometown guy there. He's not from Long Island, but he's from New York City, so we'll allow it. And they did not announce it on the show, but it has been made official online. It is a 3-way. Trick Williams versus Joe Hendry versus Mike Santana. I don't know if this is always a plan or Santana's filling in for Elijah. That was speculation on my part. But now that he's in there, he's already had 1 title shot and lost it. I cannot imagine that Mike Santana does not leave Slammiversary as your TNA World Champion. So that's something to look forward to. And I assume that Trick Williams will return to NXT before soon being on the main roster on Raw or SmackDown. And I would expect that as soon as it's legally doable, Joe Hendry would follow those footsteps. So Santana, I'm again, all speculation on my part, not a scoop, not insider info, not even really gossip, just me, my semi-educated guess that this will be the last hurrah for Joe Hendry and Trick Williams. Santana will go forward as the man in TNA, as he really has been for coming up in like 2 years, well, a year and a half now. So there you go. There's your 2 episodes of the Big Vinny V Show, 2 episodes of Impact on 1 Big Vinny V Show. If you enjoyed the show, you need more Big Vinny V in your life, you can always follow me on social media, Vincent Verhey on Blue Sky. If you really enjoyed the show, want to show your appreciation, help a brother out, buy yourself a Cameo today. Cameo.com/Vincent Verhey. Within reason and for a small fee, I will say anything you like. I wish you a happy birthday, happy anniversary, happy divorce, happy promotion. I will bury your enemies. I will bury your friends. I will give you dating tips. I will give you romance advice. I will give you a pep talk. I will sing karaoke. These are all things real human beings have paid real money to have me do. And you can too. Cameo.com/Vincent Verhey. Buy one today and buy another one tomorrow. That'll do it for today, everyone. We'll do it again next week, hopefully on the correct channel.